See who has the advantage. Oh, big left hand.
Oh, he gets him with the knee. And he hurts him. Huge knee.
He'll go get it. There it is. He got the arm.
And there's the tap.
The absolute dominance of the UFC in recent years by fighters from the mountains of Dagestan is today embodied by Islam Makhachev. Coming out of the school of Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov, Makhachev was the cause of defeats and pain for fighters considered among the best in the UFC.
Knocked out from Makhachev.
Swinging away.
Trying to escape, but I think this is going to be it.
It's time to revisit his spectacular rise to becoming a living legend. Islam Makhachev was born in Makhachev in 1991, in the Forge of the Champions, where hard work is in their DNA. Growing up in Dagestan's highly competitive environment, he practiced and competed in combat sambo. In 2016 in Sofia, Islam defeated Bulgaria's Valentin Binishev with a score of 7-0 to win the gold medal at the World Championship in combat sambo.
Fights very well, takes the back.
Makhachev's journey into professional MMA began in 2010 and lasted 5 years before he entered the UFC octagon. The 11 fights before signing the contract with Dana White left as many victims in the various circuits, the most important of which is the Russian M1 Global.
This is a fitting tactic. He's got that armor.
He has proven to be a complete athlete, capable of always improving himself, thanks also to the work of his team, led by Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov, the father of the legendary Khabib. Not even a year after the last fight for M1 in May of 2015, the Dagestani bus stops at Makhachev's final destination, Leo the Lion Kutz, with a 17-1 record and a 5-fight winning streak. At the very beginning of the fight, Makhachev delivers a couple of punches.
Been down a lot with American
Anticipated fight.
And presses the opponent against the fence. After some time, the Dagestani comes to the first and most impressive throw.
Glorious.
And takes the back of a helpless opponent. In the second round, the story is no different. Islam takes his back again.
Oh, he might have hurt him there,
I think he did. He kind of went down.
Harassing the opponent from an uncomfortable position for more than a minute.
An opportunity where he could spin around and wind up on top.
All with the goal of ending the fight with a rear naked choke.
Finish this fight.
It's over. It's over. Leo's out.
It is all over.
Showing yet again why he's a man you don't want on your back. Half a year later in October, in the bloody UFC Arena, Makhachev faces Adriano Martins, a much more experienced and not-so-harmless grappler with knockout power in his hands. Right from the start, the cage had a very tense atmosphere, and Khabib's prodigy managed to visibly shake the opponent with a set, confident, and well-timed overhand.
It's interesting, Mike, when you have two guys who are elite grapplers. That was a big left hand.
But without showing us a moment of haste to finish him off.
Disciplines, oftentimes their grappling cancels each other out. And you see.
Regardless, Islam was busy with combinations.
Kev has been training a lot in San Jose.
He's also trained by Khabib's dad.
Forcing his opponent back, and just what it looked like Adriano's patience would cost him, a brilliantly placed front hook.
Oh! Big shot by Martins. Hit it.
Sent Makhachev's head bouncing off the canvas, handing him the first loss of his career. A year after the first fall, Islam returns battling in a fight against Chris Wade for redemption. It didn't take long for Makhachev to take the fight to where he is clearly the best.
From that last fight, sometimes when you get knocked out, lots of questions.
And even when Wade managed to get to the top position,
he's on top. Beautiful scramble.
He seemed to be just struggling to survive. In the second round, he repeats his game plan.
Runs into another nice left hand. Makhachev. Oh, and he committed so.
Islam capitalizes on a visibly tired Wade.
High-level grappling.
UFC 204, the UFC's fourth event in Manchester.
Riding him like a Dagestani horse all the way to the end to get the win.
Weights will go the distance. Islam Makhachev.
After returning to victorious waters, our Dagestani, hungry for victory, tries his hand against Nick Lentz. However, doing nothing different, Makhachev brilliantly implements his game plan again.
One of the biggest complaints in the gym is that he doesn't use it enough. You're not in this one, right?
There you go, Makhachev with a beautiful trip.
Islam entered the cage as a teacher of Russian martial arts.
Up the middle, head kick high.
Nice combination.
And no matter what Nick did, he failed to get a passing grade.
Another one of those throws.
Yeah.
Islam Makhachev.
In January 2018, Islam received a new test, the same one that his predecessor Khabib had to pass. Across the octagon, he is greeted by Gleason Tebow, a Brazilian fighter and a veteran of the sport of over 50 matches.
Find a way past his feet.
Regardless of the challenge, Makhachev enters the fight without the slightest visible nervousness.
These guys see a lot is other southpaws generally. Obviously, they practice.
It didn't take long for Gleason to fall into ruin.
It's still not your general stance that you run into.
After only a minute of measuring the opponent, with a brilliantly sent rear left hook,
There's the big left hand. That's it. Wow.
Makhachev knocks the opponent unconscious without a single drop of sweat. Unfortunately for Tebow, the warm-up for these two fighters took longer than the match.
I have in the contract, if I finish, like, doesn't matter how, they give me bonus 15,000.
In July 2018, our protagonist continues with active matches and returns to the world screens against Kajan Johnson, a freestyle fighter from Vancouver. More than half the round goes by without action, and just as sleep begins to creep over our eyes, you wouldn't believe it. Islam gets the takedown.
So much on the side of the octagon because Islam's just cutting them off. Now, this is what...
Again, showing physical superiority over the opponent.
Johnson, of course, trying to control posture, perhaps.
Or shove down at the knees to try to recover your guard.
Using the already seen exceptional transitions, he defeats the Canadian with a patiently executed armbar.
Entire lives, so if you present an opportunity to get a sub, it's over. He'll go get it. There it is.
Taking the arm back to Russia.
Now, straight arm, you're done.
In April 2019, in a 3-round co-main event, after a long time, Islam faced Arbonne Sarukyan, a less experienced but no less dangerous fighter.
Complete threat, excellent.
Sarukyan backs him up. Sarukyan is bouncing now.
This is it.
Arbonne perfectly matched Islam's wrestling.
That ambitious call out. Lovely. Straight to mount.
This fight was decorated with great wrestling scrambles from both sides.
Work from Sarukyan, really nice work, creating a scramble.
He's got to watch his neck.
To create some space. Nice.
That's lovely.
Good scramble to top position.
Beautiful job.
The audacity of both was over the roof.
Does that count? No. My goodness, what a scramble.
Man, the defense of this kid is ridiculous.
Still on it. Still on it.
The fight was tense until the very end. Arbonne showed what he's made of by giving Islam the toughest test in the UFC so far, but despite that, Islam got a much-deserved decision win.
And I think Makhachev senses that, gets a big takedown.
The Dagestani wrestling machine keeps moving towards the top of the division, and this time welcomed by Davi Ramos, a multiple world champion in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with a 4-fight win streak. The situation is such that whenever two good grapplers meet in the octagon, they turn into kickboxers, pecking each other little by little.
Make the switch to 15, immediately shifted his focus to the UFC. And
Finally, Islam takes Ramos down, landing heavy shots from the top position.
gets him with the knee. It is landing. These guys are going up.
Probably wanting to spread him on the mat. He neutralized Ramos's jiu-jitsu attempts at anything, keeping him down with a dose of ground and pound.
Final seconds of the fight. Islam Makhachev.
On March 6, 2021, Drew Dober's turn, a brawler from Denver, is here to try to topple Islam's climb into the top 10 rankings. Drew is happy to exchange blows with the Russian.
When I watch this guy strike, he is nasty.
No doubt.
but being too comfortable gets taken down.
Beautiful single there by Makhachev. Yes,
That's
beautiful
big.
single.
Spinning the round under Islam's otherworldly strength.
Oh, look at that roll. Oh, Drew's in trouble. He's in big trouble.
Oh, he's still.
Makhachev implements his game plan even if the whole world is on fire. The rest of the fight was one-sided as Dober was powerless and suffering.
Take down, there's a single leg shot. Too easy.
Just when he thought things couldn't get any worse, receives a slick arm triangle.
Seems like we've seen a change in strategy for Dober, trying to get offensive here off of his back. Look.
Tapping his way out of the battle.
The shoulder pressure, though. Look at Dober's face. Oh, my God.
Islam Makhachev submits to Dober.
Makhachev is on a winning streak, coming to apex for his first 5-round UFC match against Thiago Moses, a young fighter from Brazil. The beginning of the fight passes without sudden action, until Makhachev got bored, so he simply picked up this opponent and threw him.
There it is. Nicely done.
Moses, without any response to the torture,
Islam has no problem with this. He'll stay here.
No.
is again taken down several times.
Get to hit the canvas.
Oh, wow.
I do. You're a sitting duck waiting to
slam
be taken. I was just about.
Islam decides he has had enough and wants to go home, and after suffocating the Brazilian with pressure,
You know, he's got a great spotlight here. He's clearly got.
he gets the rear naked choke.
Can't see. He's got it.
Wow!
How about it?
For Makhachev's fight preparations not to fail, on October 2021, none other than Dan Hooker agreed to scrap on short notice. It didn't take long for Makhachev to put him on his back.
Good boxing. Oh, there it is.
Beautiful little hook.
And his top position pressure is becoming exhausting to watch.
Now we saw the referee here, Daniel Movahedi, have a very quick trick.
Islam secured a brutal Kimura,
Starting to attack that now.
Now he's inside control.
bending Hooker's arm deep behind his back with a few seconds away from breaking it.
Oh my goodness.
Half a year later, a similar scenario occurs where Beneil Dariush cancels the long-awaited fight against Makhachev. With a lot of courage and certainly more money, Bobby Green steps in. Quick hands did not help Bobby because once Islam puts you close to the fence, suffering is inevitable and ruin is guaranteed.
Certainly top 10 and right in the mix.
We took down Dan Hooker. Here we go.
Makhachev now attacking.
His animal physical strength and perfect control were enough to provide the top position.
Look at that. Smothering on top. He gives no space to breathe. Heavy downward.
And bomb Green with precise ground and pound.
Ground and pound for Makhachev.
To secure his 10th victory.
Referee's going to step in.
Gonna do it. Wow.
After seeing off a successful path to the title without a single serious obstacle, on October 22, 2022, the long-awaited match arrives against Charles Oliveira in his prime for his title. Murderous in the last 11 fights, Dober has 10 finishes behind him and is coming to Makhachev's home turf in Abu Dhabi. Opening the fight in his style,
Ready for 12% off today and tomorrow.
Expect Oliveira to go forward.
Oliveira occupies the center of the ring, trying to impose his dominance. Islam takes the opportunity and throws hard shots, trying to back Charles up.
Haven't seen before though.
You know Charles will get stunned.
Only 30 seconds into the beginning, we witness more action than in other Islam fights, and Makhachev already managed to get into top position, leaving the Brazilian submission artist powerless, but allowing him to stand up with a small scramble.
Trying to get up. Nice job there from Oliveira. Look for the knees of Oliveira.
All this to throw him on the floor again,
Hand off the top of the octagon and now taken down.
as we could see countless times until now. Charles continues with his pressure in the second round,
Oh, another nice stick there by Makhachev early round 2.
but at close range from the clinch, where he has had the most success so far, he fails to find the right moment, and Makhachev was simply too much for him. Islam succeeds in punishing Dobronx's every pressure attempt,
With Oliveira, when you're in tight, he just is jamming these into your body. It may not look
and Charles does not give up regardless,
for both guys because of the match.
trying to turn the fight to his advantage. It was only a matter of time before Islam aimed his front hook,
Knocked down from Makhachev.
and completely shut down the connection between Oliveira's brain and legs.
Knockdown from Makhachev.
Sending him to the floor. With a quick transition, he catches the Brazilian in the arm triangle.
Right into the left arm.
He's got to watch the arm triangle here.
Squeezing the desire to win completely out of him. This was the end of the debate over who is the champion of the lightweight division and the beginning of Makhachev's absolute dominance. In February 2023, the new lightweight champion was challenged by the undisputed ruler of the featherweight division. Alexander Volkanovski decided to get bigger and get great in an attempt to attack for double gold and the pound-for-pound #1 ranking. The fight promised to be a pure spectacle and to enter the history of this sport. It didn't take long for Volk to press on, showing the skill of movement at the very start.
Based upon the way that they stand, Volkanovski...
Diving and emerging from under the vision of the higher Islam, he even manages to shake him, taunting him and yelling in the sequel.
He said is that Makhachev won't take a lot of risks. He's going to be very...
Going back and forth non-stop, both enter the exchange and only Volk remains shaken.
Fight atmosphere like this. And now he traps Volkanovski. Don't hit the floor.
And pushed against the fence. Islam demonstrates his takedowns.
Now this is it. Oh! Beautiful takedown.
And Volk, on the other hand, demonstrates his phenomenal anti-bullying resistance.
Volkanovski told us after the Brian Ortega fight he essentially feels unsure.
Regardless, Alex got backpacked by the end of the round.
You see just how calm, cool, and collected.
The second round did not disappoint either, as both men did what they do best, punch after punch.
Sequence there. Makhachev attacks the body.
Work for Volkanovski will be key. That's nice.
Takedown after takedown.
Mr. Volkanovski. In any way. Beautiful wrestling.
The fight exceeded the fans' best expectations. They were able to witness a great display of striking.
Jabs land for Volkanovski, and that's his... Oh!
A lot of clinching.
Risk reward for Makhachev.
Takedown attempts by the Dagestani warlord.
Beautiful transition.
And phenomenal defenses from the King from Australia.
Beautiful defense.
Islam managed to visibly frustrate Alexander every time he took his back. Relentless in takedown attempts, Islam knew every second of the fight what he came for.
See how he stepped over it? Now that he stepped over it, he's good.
And even though he ended the fight with his back on the floor for the first time,
Wow.
he managed to leave the arena as a winner, and Volkanovski, despite all his efforts, failed to win the title. Both athletes had a spectacular fight, kept their titles, and left the octagon with their heads held high. Both know that a second fight will have to be done soon, and that the drums of war will thunder once again. Bone-crushing submission. Brutal knockouts.
See who has the advantage. Oh, big left hand. That's it.
And shattering stamina.
Does that count? No. My goodness, what a scrap.
For Volkanovski will be key.
The warrior soul and brutal training have brought Islam Makhachev to the top of the fighters who will go down in history. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more high-level fights, hit the subscribe button, smash the like button, and suplex the notification bell.